Been a while. Where are we going to go this week? Let's go back to Scotland. But is it really as good as they say? Hello again, I'm Nathan. Welcome to Wasn't My Fault Whiskey Wednesday. It's been a bit of time since I've last done one. As you can see, I've still got a lot of whiskies to go through, so I'm trying to catch up a little bit. Work and all sorts of other stuff in the way, so let's try and get back to it. So, Glenmorangie should be in there. So what's Glenmorangie I always thought, but it's Glenmorangie, I believe is the correct pronunciation. So I will try and remember Glenmorangie. Right, let's have a look. This is the classic 10-year-old, so it's not a ridiculously high age statement, really expensive. On sale, of course, like everything else I get, because I just can't justify spending ridiculous amounts of money on whiskey as much as I enjoy it. Ah, pop a cork and that. Pop! Let's have a try of this. Nice colour, quite light. So, quite citrusy already, and I've not even started to smell it yet. Slightly banana-y. It's a bit of citrus, a bit of sort of caramelly butterscotch type of thing, as you kind of expect with a lot of the blended whiskies like this one. Nice traditional Scotch. Yeah, I'm definitely getting banana-y notes to it. Things like monkey shoulder I tend to associate more with some kind of banana. I think it was monkey shoulder. Pretty sure it was. Another classic Scotch. But this obviously well known. Interesting, yeah. Vanilla, butterscotch, bit of banana. Interesting. Maybe a bit more fruit. Peach, apricot, something like that maybe. Really quite sweet. It's quite pleasant though. It's sweet, but it's quite light as well, which is quite good. See what it tastes like. That's quite interesting. It's definitely got the kind of sweet butterscotch, a bit of fruit, a little bit of citrus in there. Just kind of get that, especially in the back end, a little bit of that there. But in the front, the first thing it kind of hits you is kind of the sweetness and the vanilla. Definitely a bit of like banana maltiness to it, maybe like banana bready type of thing, I guess. Try again. Yeah, that's good. I quite like that. It's what you expect from Scotch. It's kind of the classic Scotch, really, isn't it? So it's not really anything jumping out as I didn't expect that. It's kind of what you'd compare other Scotches to, I guess. It's quite pleasant. The back end, slightly kind of the wood spiciness you generally get with kind of whiskey. A little bit kind of fruity back end to it, I guess, but it's quite clean. It doesn't kind of linger too much. Slightly oily, but not a huge amount. So it just kind of goes away nicely. It doesn't kind of, there's nothing kind of leaves there on your tongue and you just think, well, that's kind of strong. It's just pleasant and it just disappears ready for the next sip. It's very pleasant. It's quite nice. Yeah, that is rather good. I didn't get any water out. So what I usually do, if you haven't watched before, I tend to put a little bit of drop in the first taste of the new whiskey, just to see if it brings out any more aromas and flavours and that sort of thing, and then I go on and do some other things. So let me get set up with everything, and I should be right back. Don't go away. Okay, so here we go. I have everything lined up ready. The first point, as I said before, is just a little drop of water, just to see if it opens up a little bit. Just let it settle a moment. Oh, that really brings out the vanilla. It's like vanilla, caramel, butterscotch, that kind of real sort of strong sweetness. The banana's completely gone with just a small hint of it, but it is just the sweetness that comes through. That's quite unusual. These were just kind of watering down the smell, but that really brought the vanilla tones out. Very interesting. not as complex. Again, it strips out some of it. The sweetness is still there at the beginning. There's more of the kind of woody spiciness at the end. But the kind of fruits and that sort of thing has kind of disappeared a little bit. It's still quite nice, don't get me wrong. It's still not bad. But neat is a lot better. You get a lot more fruit tones and that sort of thing. It's a little bit more interesting when you drink it because you get in the sweetness, the banana, the maltiness, like bread, like banana bread, I guess, and the kind of fruitiness showing through as well as the vanilla, the caramel. But it's mainly just vanilla caramel, and then it just finishes with kind of spiciness and the alcohol kind of flavour to it. So it's not as interesting for me anyway. But you know, maybe for somebody else that's what they're looking for. Personally, I like to have all the subtle flavours and so on. So as we always do, we have a regular shot for a single spherical ice cube. I gotta find my Norland glass to go with it. I don't know what it is. I also have Pepsi Max because I don't drink Coke. I know whiskey and Coca-Cola work well. Black coffee because I don't like milk in my coffee. And then we have a cocktail. Just a simple old-fashioned. No, I'm not using orange rind. I don't tend to eat a lot of orange. I tend to have quite a bad reaction to citrus like that. My lips will puff up and go dry. It's not a pretty sight, so I don't tend to have oranges. I don't mind them now and then, some orange juice, but yeah, that's why I don't do it for this, because it'd be quite a waste of an orange just to have a little bit of appeal for putting in the glass and so on. I shall just give everything a quick all mix. Wash the straw between them so I don't cross-contaminate the flavours. So give everything a chance to incorporate that lovely whiskey, especially the cocktail. So obviously it's got simple syrup and bitters and so on. So we shall see. Well, you tend to have an old-fashioned more of a bourbon with a lot sort of stronger, punchier flavours, where something like Scotch tends to be a little bit lighter or more subtle, so it doesn't always work that well. Okay, this is probably going to be similar to the water. So obviously it's not just the water down, it's also the temperature. When you have a change in temperature, it'll change the way you taste it as well. You may not be able to taste all the same kind of flavours, so it should be interesting. That's interesting. It is interesting. Again, such a big glass, I'm not expecting much on the nose. And you tend to put an ice cube in, and big glass, you don't smell as much as you do with the actual proper Glencairn, because it's designed for nosing. So it funnels all the aromas into your nose, so you can have a good whiff of it and see what it's like. Whereas this, it just kind of goes straight out into the atmosphere, so you don't notice it as much. There's not really a lot. A little bit of fruitiness, I guess, maybe, but that's about it. It's actually not bad with us. Again, a lot of the flavours are missing. There's still a kind of citrusy aftertaste to it, and the bit of the kind of spiciness you get from the wood. That's on the back end of it. The front end isn't as sweet, which I do actually quite like, because sometimes I find things too sweet. So that's not bad, but it is just kind of more generic whiskey tasting. You don't get kind of the things that I would associate with a particular scotch, like the butterscotch flavours and the banana bread and the fruit and that sort of thing. It's kind of all missing. It's just kind of like a generic whiskey flavour. A little bit of citrus, which does stand out from other things, but not a huge amount of difference there. It's a bit, it's okay. I don't mind it, I must admit. It's better than some I've had, but there's nothing that kind of goes, oh yeah, that works really well with ice. It's just generic with ice, to be honest. Okay, with Pepsi. It's not bad. There's not a huge amount of flavour. As I always say, stuff like Jack Daniels and bourbon and Tennessee whiskies, see there is a distinction there somewhere. They tend to have quite strong flavours. They don't have many flavours, but the flavours they've got are quite kind of like quite punchy and in your face, so you recognise them straight away. Whereas with a Scotch, it tends to be more subtle and a few sort of, you get a variety of them, whereas a bourbon tends to be fewer but more pronounced, and that's why things like Jack Daniels and Coke always works. It's a very specific flavour you get. You don't get that with a Scotch. So something I would say not to mix. Hay Club is kind of designed to be a mixer, I guess, but things like a nice Scotch, don't do that. I wouldn't think. It's not something I'd personally do. I think it just spoils it. And if you want something, you can go put vodka, yeah, or Jack Daniels, I guess, or something cheap. You know, you're not going to notice that much. Okay, black coffee. Am I noticing anything? Not a huge amount, as expected. Maybe need more than one shot, but I've already got 7 shots, so I don't want to do more in one video, do I? Never be able to edit it. Already slurring. That's not good. Anyway, there's not a lot there. It brings out a kind of woodiness again, like most whiskies tend to bring out a kind of a slight woody flavour to coffee. It is quite hot as well, which means you won't necessarily taste a lot. I tend to have the same temperature. It is at my preferred temperature. I've got an amber mug. I'll link it up there if you're interested in it. It's got a little white flashing light to say that it's reached my temperature, which is 59.9 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but that's the temperature I like in my coffee. So that's the temperature I'm going to test it at. Which is why I use this mug, so every single time I taste whiskey and coffee, it is at exactly the same temperature. Scientific. Yeah, if I'm going to do it right. Now, the slight woodiness, a slight peachy tinge to at the end of it, I think. It's slightly fruity, so it has got something there, slightly fruitiness. I guess peach is probably the best way to describe it because it's really, really subtle. It's not a huge amount there. I'm not tasting a lot of kind of alcohol or anything else. There is only 1 shot in it, so it's not a huge amount. I'm not really noticing it, to be honest. Right. Let me stir the old fashioned again, give it every chance. I don't always expect much, as I said, from a Scotch. Glenmorangie, I think it's one of those ones you want to have really neat. On the rocks, it works, but said it becomes too generic then. It's not how I'd have it. It's not bad. I'm actually surprised. It does bring the vanilla tones to it quite nicely. And the kind of citrus notes you get are kind of offsetting the bitters a little bit. It's weird. Because it's citrusy, but not so much from the bitters. It's more from the whiskey, which is a weird thing to try and... How do I explain that? Because the bitters is very bitter, but it's a more of a citric acid flavour to it rather than a bitter flavour, if that makes sense. It's quite interesting. I didn't expect that from it. And the front end isn't as sweet. It's very strange, considering it's fairly sweet flavour, really, because it's got the vanilla and the banana and that sort of thing. And there's a little bit of an aftertaste as well. That's actually, it's surprisingly good. It's a bit different to normal old fashioned. Yeah, the sweetness is cut out the front end a little bit. There's a little bit of vanilla. There's the kind of, yeah, there's a banana aftertaste. That's weird. How is it tasting? There's so much banana in the back end. Even like neat, it didn't taste banana, but that's tasting the banana. It's just weird because you kind of get a little bit of sweetness, the kind of vanilla sweetness rather than the sugary sweetness, which is kind of strange. It's more butterscotchy than syrup because it's got simple syrup in it, so it's just kind of sweet and sugary. But it tastes more butterscotchy, which is quite nice. And then you've got citrus, but it's not quite as bitter. It's more acidic citrus flavour to it. And then the back end goes sweet again, and then like banana. I'm actually quite impressed. Well done. That's quite good. Yeah, the back end had banana. That is weird. Right, I'm going to go back through them. Okay, back to the Coke. Now's our chance to settle any better? No, not really. It disappears into it. It puts a small amount of vanilla flavour into the Pepsi, but that's really about it. It doesn't do a lot else. So, no, take it or leave it. It's okay, but I think it's a bit of a waste. Once again, coffee, it's like woodiness, like pretty much every whiskey I've ever tasted does. Not a lot of flavour to it. It's just coffee, but then I do use strong black coffee, so it's my own fault. With ice, now it's had a chance to melt, if you can see that a little bit. More alcoholic kind of aroma to it, I guess. Interesting. It's not bad. It is very subtle. It is, for me, it's too generic whiskey flavour. When you put ice in it, it does kind of go a little bit generic. There's a little bit of an aftertaste. There's a little kind of peach tinge to the aftertaste. That's really about it. It's okay. I wouldn't say no to it, but I want to go out of my way to have it on the rocks, to be honest. Okay, back to the original, just the drop of water. That's kind of settled back down to what it was originally, which is good. Yeah, the banana, butterscotch, a bit of fruitiness. It's nice. Yeah, not as nice as it was neat, but it's still quite good. I think it takes away the kind of harsh edge a little bit to it when you put a little bit of water, but that was interesting. For me, it's like old fashioned. Having the banana flavour to it is really weird. Unexpected, but actually quite pleasant. I must admit, I quite like that. Very interesting. I quite enjoyed that one. I have to try some other ones. I need to get some Glenfiddich soon, I think, but I do have another 7 or 8 whiskies to review, so I'll go through those first, and then if I get Glenfiddich on sale, give that a try too. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and found it interesting, because I definitely found it more interesting than I thought I would, to be honest. Classic one like that, and it surprised me, which is always good. Please comment, like, subscribe, all the usual nonsense that everyone tells you, and come back to me again soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.